Look, man, let's go ahead and jump into the Ole Miss schedule. Let me run through their schedule real quick. And then, Chicken, I'm going to let you do the depth chart so we see what their depth looks like, how they're going to shape up, and then we'll kind of give our predictions on each of the games. It's going to be great to have the Gooch on here to give his take on each of those games, so I'm looking forward to that. But let's start with their season. They open up with Georgia State, then they go to Kentucky, then they host Arkansas, they host Tulane, they host LSU, then they host Washington State, then they go on the road to Athens to take on Georgia, then they go on the road to Oklahoma, then they host Carolina, then they host the Citadel, then they host Florida, and then they close it out with the Egg Bowl at Mississippi State. So a very interesting schedule for sure.
Absolutely one of the easiest in the SEC, no doubt. It has to be.
I think that it would definitely be one of the easiest, especially when you pair it with Lane Kiffin. If anybody has proven, whether they like NIL and transfer portal or not, that they know how to use those tools to their benefit, it's Lane Kiffin. And Lane Kiffin knows how to build the right roster around what he wants to do on the field that will make a seemingly easy schedule even easier, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would say that, I think Kirby Smart is probably one of the best in college football for retaining his players and not having so many go into the portal. But I would say Lane has proven to be the best at getting talent out of the portal and putting them a team together for sure.
Yeah. And let's go ahead and dive into what the Rebels are going to look like to start the year. Okay. Not a lot of things jump off of the page as far as an overall grading at these positions. I mean, and understandably so. Jackson Dart is now in the NFL, right? So your quarterback room is currently grading out at a B+. Well, there's not any real experience there to say, well, this guy's going to be a superstar or this guy might not be so great. But from my perspective, there's a lot of talent in this room. Austin Simmons is your projected starter, played in 7 games last year, threw for 282 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He also ran the ball 5 times for 21 yards. So he's got some legs underneath him. Okay. Smith, currently projected to be behind him, is a transfer in from Oklahoma State. Played in 4 games. That's how he keeps his red shirt, right? Threw for 487 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 picks. So not all that great. But again, that was his freshman year that he did that. Also runs the ball a little bit, picked up 36 yards and a touchdown on the ground. A.J. Maddox, though, is who I really want to look at. True freshman, 4-star coming in. He's 6'1", a little undersized and 185 pounds. But they look for a lot of bright things for the future from A.J. Maddox. Let's get down into the running backs. As far as your starters are concerned, there's a running back by committee thing going on here. You got Logan Diggs, you've got Damian Taylor, you got Kawan Lacey. Kawan Lacey is the only one that held any real clout at a 4-star coming out of high school. Ran the ball for in 6 games, 23 attempts, 99 yards last year. So again, nothing to jump up and down about. Damian Taylor played in 12 games, 170 carries for 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. So this guy's got some legs underneath him. He's got the ability to carry the rock. And then Logan Diggs only had 1 carry last year for 15 yards. So from a starter standpoint, that's going to be by committee, but the depth in this room is pretty solid. A wide receiver, Dazon Stribling, Cayden Lee, you've got Harrison Wallace III. So there's some solid depth there. And that's what Lane Kiffin likes to do, right? Like he doesn't really care that there's one standout receiver on his team. He wants a lot of good receivers on his team. I don't need one guy to look good. I need the unit to look good. Right? That's what Lane does. And if he can keep those guys rotating in, then all 5, 6, 7 of those guys that he wants to run out there stay fresh with solid legs underneath him. The tight end room, the tight ends. We've had some struggles here with some of these other teams we've talked about recently, but it looks like Lane's got a solid room at the tight end position. Daquan Wright is a 3-star true senior, played in 13 games last year, 39 targets, 27 receptions for 394 yards and 4 touchdowns. Luke Haas transfers in from the Fighting Pittmans, okay? 4-star junior, 32 targets, 26 receptions for 324 yards and 4 touchdowns. So again, some pretty baseline foundational numbers from the tight end position. Trace Bruckner, also a transfer from New Mexico State, I believe he comes in from. Played in 12 games, 28 targets, 22 receptions for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns. These are going to be some good outlets for Simmons to get the ball to at the tight end position. Offensive line, 3 guys transferring in to be part of this starting front 5. Okay. And as we've talked about with other schools, when you've got that offensive line, I understand that they might be just exceptionally talented, your transfers coming in. They might have a history of solid play behind them. But that offensive line is so crucial because they have to have absolute chemistry, right? Like these guys have to be able to work together on every play. There is no, my left tackle slipped and fell down, so what other tackle can I go to? It ain't like that. You can find a different receiver. You can dump the ball off to a running back out of the backfield. If something happens with your offensive line, get ready to run because you're in trouble in this conference. So that'll be my only question mark right now looking at the offensive line. They grade out at an A-. Their depth grades out at a C+. So don't have any injuries. Hit Oxford in the offensive line room. Defense, again, they look solid. And I keep wanting to stress what Lane Kiffin can do with a roster that looks solid, right? Like we talk about Alabama and how their roster looks so good. Ole Miss looks solid. That means they're dangerous with Lane Kiffin. Davian Harris at your defensive line position looks like he's going to play nose tackle this year. Princewell, and I can't say, is it Uman Milan? I don't know. I went to Japanese lessons the other day, not where Princewell comes from. Another solid game, 10 tackles, 15 hurries, 8 stops last year. Transfers in from the University of Nebraska. Jamarius Brown comes in. He's going to play some defensive tackle. Will Eccles, another solid room here for Lane Kiffin. At the linebacker position, playing the will linebacker is former 5-star recruit Suntarine Perkins. Okay, this guy is a beast, 6'1", 210 pounds. Played 13 games last year, 42 tackles, 31 hurries, 11 sacks. 11 sacks. Think about that for a minute. TJ Daugherty, a previous transfer in from Clemson. Okay, another former 4-star recruit, played in 12 games, 61 tackles, 9 hurries, 3 sacks. So a solid room at linebacker. Defensive backs, your starters aren't looking good, but your depth chart saves the day at the defensive back. Your top 6 guys listed on the depth chart at defensive back are transfers, incoming transfers. So what I see is the reason your starters are grading out so low is because they're largely unproven. Jalen Braxton transfers in from Arkansas. Sage Ryan transfers in from LSU. Antonio Kite transfers in most recently from Alabama, although he started out at Auburn. Ricky Fletcher from South Alabama. And then you've got Wydett Williams Jr. transferred in from a D2 school, and Kapina Gushikin, I probably said that wrong too, from Washington State. So a lot of transfers coming in here, couple of new commits at true freshmen, and then Tavoy Fagan transferred in from Clemson, but he's a little bit further down the depth chart. Probably won't see a whole lot of time. He's a redshirt freshman this year. So just, again, a lot of unproven talent in the defensive back group for Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels. But all in all, I think it's a solid roster, and it scares me what Lane Kiffin can do with a solid roster.
Yeah, one of the things that when you got to their defense, I was very anxious to see what that was going to look like and how much he went into the portal for that, because that was one of Lane, not typical, but it was one of Lane's strengths last season was their defense. Ole Miss had a great defense, and they got hit in the NFL pretty hard. They lost a lot of people on that defense to the NFL. So it was going to be curious on how deep he went into the portal, and that's exactly what Lane did, what Lane does.
Yeah, they lost their 2 best players. They lost their 2 best players to the NFL. Walter Nolan, their defensive tackle, he was part of that 5-star group that went to Texas A&M. And they also lost Trey Amos, their star corner.
Yeah. And they really got hit hard up front on the defensive line. But it looks like that's one of the strongest groups that he's got on defense right now. They grade out at a B+ at their starter positions. Again, I think that's largely because of experience. right? Like Xavier Harris played in 13 games, but he only had 18 tackles. So he played in those games. I don't know how much he played in those games at the nose tackle position, but from a depth perspective, an A+. He's going to be able to rotate in fresh legs all game long. And I'm looking at this list at how they graded out coming out of high school: 4-star, 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 5-star, 3-star, 4-star, 4-star.
Wow. Gooch, what do you think about their roster and their Ole Miss season moving forward this year?
I mean, there's a lot of talent in the SIP. I think it really starts with the offensive line. Lane likes to run the football, to set up the pass, to set up the throwing the clipboard in the air. He likes the ground and pound. He wants his guys to tote the rock for a lot of yardage. If the offensive line can block for him, I don't see a problem with him offensively because he's very creative. Defensively, I don't know. We'll see. I don't really know much about those guys. We'll see and when it comes time. But I think they'll be a pretty solid team this year.
Yeah, I think they're going to be, since Lane has gotten to Ole Miss, and he's really built something very special at Ole Miss, I think that he's going to have a good year regardless. Does he jump into the playoffs this year? I don't know, man. Let's get into those games and let's see what we think, how many W's and how many L's are going to be.
I think I'm going to agree completely with the Gooch on this. I think the question of what type of season do they have? Do they get into the playoffs this year? Do they get over that commonality that we saw last year? 4 teams in the Southeastern Conference ended the season at 9-3, right? And Ole Miss was one of those, and Ole Miss was one of the 3. That's right, evil one. I'm leaving you out. One of the 3 that felt like they had a grasp on claiming a playoff spot, and they didn't get it. Right. So I look to them to clear that hurdle this year. If this offensive line can stay healthy, we talked about the running backs, and Lane does like to run the football, very similar to the way that Steve Spurrier loved to run the football. He was known for other things offensively, known for throwing the rock, known for putting massive point totals on the board, just like Lane, known for those moments where the visor would come flying off in the same way that Lane likes to throw that clipboard.
That's right.
But it all started up front with the run, a true run threat. And as we said, right now, Ole Miss is set up to run by committee. There is no standout single running back that you look at and go, dude, that guy's dangerous. If this offensive line can hold tight to provide that running game, I think that Ole Miss has a good season. As I look at the pass production, from this running back room, I count a total of 6 receptions from the 3 guys that are going to be running the football for Lane this year. 6 total receptions, for less than 50 yards. So it's not like you're looking at a standpoint of, if the offensive line isn't that good, they can go in more of this spread attack and start dumping the ball off to the running back out of the backfield. I mean, maybe they can, but looking at historical stats, that ain't looking like this running back.
We don't know, right?
That ain't their best tool so far.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think that's a great take, and, it's that offensive line, man. And look, we talked about that in a previous show. What's more important, a new offensive line or a new defensive line? And I think most everyone on this show would agree that the offensive line is so key to being able to draw up as many schemes that Lane Kiffin likes to draw up. You're going to be limited if that line's not strong.
I mean, we're not a pro show, but ask Jerry Jones, ask Jimmy Johnson how important an offensive line is. You don't have Michael Irvin and his career. You don't have Troy Aikman and his career. You don't have Emmitt Smith and his career. And we can go down the line of all the Cowboys that are in the Hall of Fame right now. But I'm going to tell you this. I believe each and every one of them would tip their hat back to that O-line.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. So, look, man, let's dive into Ole Miss's games. And so they opened up with Georgia State. I think we'll all say that's a W for sure. Go ahead.
They have Branson Robinson as the new running back at Georgia State.
But no O-line.
It's still a W for
we don't know.
Ole Miss.
We don't know.
Well, we're assuming Branson's healthy in week 1.
No, Branson Robinson's probably gonna be hurt by week 2, so it's all good.
Yeah. Or week 2 of practice. So then they go to Kentucky, and I'm gonna say that's an easy deal, Kiffin. I think Kentucky's season, and we're gonna get to that hopefully in the next several weeks, but it does not look good for Kentucky this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that Lane opens up a can on March Stoops. It's going to be a long afternoon in Kentucky. It's a 3:30 kick, and those guys won't be able to get out of there fast enough. In fact, I think most of the Blue Faithful will be gone by 4:45.
Oh, for sure. B-Dawg?
Yeah, I would take Ole Miss, of course, but I do want to push back on them just losing the entire season, because I do think there has to be an improvement at the quarterback position this year. So I just think we'll get to them in a couple of weeks, but we'll see what their depth is looking like. But I just don't see them being much worse than last year is what I'm saying. I still think they're going to be bottom 2-3 teams in the SEC, but how much can you get?
Was that a shot at Vander Griffgroff?
Unfortunately. I wish the best for my Prince Avenue brother, but yeah, good luck in retirement.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Congratulations on your new insurance career. I'm sure you'll go far.
Gage, what do you think about that Kentucky game?
What time is that game?
3:30.
3:30. I don't know. Kroger Field's very tough to play at, but I don't know. Mark Stoops probably going to lose his job this year. I would say hot seat for sure, unless somehow he wins 6 or 7 games. Yeah, I think Ole Miss probably going to roll. So, yeah, dub for Ole Miss. Also, Brock Vandegrift's going to be stealing souls. He is a ginger, by the way, so that's his new job as a certified soul stealer.
Okay.
I believe, though, he's a devout Christian, so if he's doing anything with souls, he's probably sending them up as opposed to
but
around.
He's also a ginger, so every freckle he collects, every freckle on his body, that's a soul he has stolen. So check him out.
Welcome to the Gooch, everyone.
He's got a little bit of a dark side.
Yeah, just a little. The next game is they host the Fighting Pittmans with Arkansas, and I think this game is a toss-up for me. I can see this game going either way. If I had to really take a shot at this, I would say that Arkansas wins this game against Ole Miss. That delivers Lane his first loss of the season. I think Green at Arkansas is going to be a pretty top-notch quarterback.
I think Taylen Green is going to have an outstanding year. I am going to disagree with you. This game for me comes back to what we said earlier, and it's all about the offensive line. If at this point, this is only 3rd game into the season.
They lost him.
If the offensive line is producing, if the offensive line is staying healthy, then I think Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels can win a close one because it's in Oxford. It's currently to be determined, but I think at this point, it's probably going to be played in the evening. It's either going to be a 7 or a 7:30 kick. I look for Ole Miss to win this game.
Yeah, I think I agree. With that home field advantage, I'm going to take Ole Miss. But if we do see a rough start to the offensive line and by extension the quarterback, I'm not getting a good fresh start, I probably would take Taylen Green and the Razorbacks.
I'm going to take Ole Miss as well. I don't think Taylen Green is that good, actually. I kind of think he's overrated, but we will see. I mean, we're in Ole Miss, so I like the Rebels.
Green threw for over 3,000 yards last year, and I don't see a downward production from him this year. I see it'll increase. That's just my take.
I just don't think he's going to be able to do it. I think they're a 6 or 7, maybe 8-win game, and 8 wins would be beating Ole Miss. I just don't think they have the dudes to beat Ole Miss, to be honest.
Maybe not. The next game is Tulane. I think we would all agree that's a W. And then they host LSU. And, this is another hard game, but I'm actually going to go with the Ole Miss Rebels on this one. They're at home. I think LSU is going to be playing pretty good football up until then. And I think, I don't know what I said when we did the forecast show for LSU, but my gut now tells me, if I was different, my gut tells me that Ole Miss wins this game at home.
Brian Kelly is going to lose some games that he should win, and this could fall into that. But I know that this game is in Oxford. I know that it's probably going to be an evening kick because at this point, in my mind, Ole Miss is undefeated coming into the matchup against LSU. I think Nuss has a night. I think that it's going to be just a little too difficult for Lane to get his guys where they need to be. Now, again, we talked about their roster. We talked about how dangerous he can be with a solid roster. LSU's got a really good roster. LSU's got a really good, proven quarterback. Austin Simmons is unproven at this point. So a lot of this is projection on our part. But I just think Nussmeier wins the day here. I think LSU wins by 7.
Yeah. So with these defensive backs, man, they're fresh to this team. So this is their 5th game playing together, this unit. I would imagine, they're starting to click, but I still don't think that's enough. I think this is the first game in LSU's schedule where Nussmeier really takes that Heisman conversation to the next level, and they're going to win this game. I'd give it to him by 10.
Again, Brian Kelly underperforms several games as a coach, right? Like we can all agree on that. I'm not saying he's a bad coach, right? But there are games that he underperforms. I think this might be one of those games, but I just think Nussmeier's too much. I think that Nussmeier is the difference. I don't think LSU's defense comes out and does anything spectacular. So I see Ole Miss being able to put points on the board. That's why I've got it at 7.
Gooch, you there?
I don't know. What's all this hype about Nuss? I mean, Heisman front runner, I think. That's what some people are saying. I don't really believe it, but
he's
will
pretty
see.
good at throwing the football downfield to his guys. That's where the hype comes from.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't believe it, though. I don't believe the hype Nuss. But it is LSU. It is Brian Kelly. He's a great football coach. And, when you have the homegrown talent in Louisiana like they do, I don't know. I just like Lane. I think Lane's going to be able to scheme it up. LSU might win. I don't know. It's a toss-up for me right now, but let's go Ole Miss for right now.
All right. The next game is Washington State. I say Lane's got a W on that one.
Washington State?
Yeah.
Didn't their quarterback just transfer to Oklahoma?
Yeah, Mateer.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Dude's supposed to be solid.
And that's why I think Oklahoma will have a much better year than last year.
Yeah, I do too.
And this
in a couple weeks.
This is game 4 of a 4-game homestand. And I think at this point, and it's a 12:45 kick because Washington State's not really an attractive opponent at this point in the season. It's October 11th when this matchup takes place. So most people are in the thick of their conference schedule, and Ole Miss is going out to play Washington State on a Saturday. I think Washington State coming into Oxford is overwhelming for them. I think that this is an ugly game for the Cougars. I think Lane Kiffin looks like a hero.
Yeah, maybe they should just, the players and the coaches for Washington State, maybe they should just hang out in the Grove the entire game.
It's one of those questions of what looks worse, losing by a massive deficit in Oxford to Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels, or just taking the L and getting back on the plane.
Yeah, go have a hottie toddy in the tents, eat some food. That's what I would do.
That's right.
Hey, the Pac-8 is collecting their check here. That's all it is.
That's true. But how long do you have to stay on the field to collect? Did you have to go through all 4 quarters? Or if we play the first, we're like, guys, our backup kicker's pancreas really hurts right now. So we're going to go ahead and call it a day.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
What do we call them? We call them Pac State. So we're calling them.
That's right.
Yeah.
The Pac State. Yeah. All right. The next game.
Here we go.
Woo! They have to take a drive down I-20, take a detour near Atlanta, and go north to Athens, Georgia, and take on the Georgia Bulldogs. I think this is going to be a revenge game for Kirby Smart from what the Rebels did to them last year. I don't even think it's close.
I don't disagree, but let me state why. All of us have just put a 3-1 record coming out of that 4-game homestand. Whether you landed with Arkansas or whether you landed with LSU, we see that there's probably a loss in there somewhere for Lane Kiffin and the Rebels. 4 games at home, and then the following week you got to go to Athens to play the Georgia Bulldogs. I just think that that's too much. I think both teams at this point, meaning our show, have unproven talent at quarterback. By the time that October the 18th gets here, you're going to know who Austin Simmons is. You're going to know who Gunnar Stockton is. And Gunner's got a lot more weapons around him on both sides of the football. I think Georgia wins this one going away. I think 10-14 is what Georgia walks away from this one with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think with just going from Washington State all the way to playing at home against, top 5, top 10 team, I just think it's going to be too much. You're going from a middle-of-the-pack college football team to one of the best. I just think it's going to be hard for them to win, especially at the motherland.
Yeah, I think the last time Ole Miss came into Athens and beat the Dogs was like 98, I think, if I'm correct. I'm pretty sure that I saw that the other day. But really, Georgia only struggles in that small stadium that they have in, was it Oxford, Mississippi, by the Grove? I don't know. I think the Dogs roll, to be honest with you. Georgia's going to have too much. It's very hard for the Dogs to lose in Athens. The last time they lost there, the Chickens Cocks beat them. Yeah, Kirby's going to have it. Kirby's going to have something for Kiffin. I know they're friends, but I would think this one could get out of hand like 30-17.
Wow.
I like that score. And it was 1995. Last time Ole Miss beat Georgia at home.
95?
95.
I knew it was 90-something. I looked it up the other day, but I could not remember.
Good stuff.
So it was 2019 when South Carolina beat them with a team that had no business really beating anybody that year.
You had Muschamp.
I know. I'm sorry. That's why we had no business beating anybody.
Like, you give him so much grief, but he gave y'all he's the last Gamecock head coach to beat the Dog.
Izzy McQuamu is who I will always credit with that win. At no point will I credit the chump.
I was waiting on it.
All right, so let's move to the next game, guys. They have another road game against Oklahoma. I think that Ole Miss wins this game. I think they bounce back after the loss to Georgia.
Yeah, I agree. I know that Uncle Kenny hinted to Oklahoma being a different team this year, and I don't disagree. I mean, they're brand new at quarterback, right? Most people left and ran for the hills. Venables, and we've talked about this before. It's never a good thing, historically, when your head coach says, you know what, I'm going to call the offense or I'm going to call the defense. And that's what Venables is going to do this year at Oklahoma. He's doing all the DC work. So he's got his head coaching duties on game day. He's got defensive coordinator duties on game day. That's not going to play out well. It's especially not going to play out well when you're going up against Lane Kiffin. I think the Rebels eat the Sooners alive.
Yeah, playing off what Senior Chief said a couple episodes ago, I really do think that Oklahoma is going to be really good. But also talking about Venables, I think he's going to improve a little bit, and I really like Mateer. I really do. I think he's going to come in. I think playing at the stadium is really, really tough, and I think I'm going to take Oklahoma with this game, maybe just by like a field goal.
I think Venables might ruin another good quarterback first and foremost. I mean.
Wouldn't be the first time.
I think Venables is a great defensive coordinator, but I do not think he's a good team leader, head coach type of guy, CEO type of guy. He likes the defensive side of football. Well, stay on it. Go back to Clemson, maybe go somewhere else. I don't know. But I don't think he's going to last very long unless Oklahoma's going to have to go 9-3 this year for him, I would think, to keep his job. And I don't think that's going to happen. I like Ole Miss rolling in this game, 24-10, something like that.
Yeah, Venables, a lot of people are speculating that he is on the hot seat. He's one of the coaches in the SEC that their job is kind of on the line. So I think Gooch is right. I don't know if it has to be at least 9-3, but it definitely has to have an improvement. I definitely think that they need to be 8-4, for them to say, okay, I know that they brought in a GM to kind of help guide him a little bit and to help with some of the back office stuff that Venables may be struggling with. I don't know, but it could be an interesting year for Venables this year.
Well, if it's 8-4, sorry, go ahead, Chicken.
Go ahead.
If it's 8-4, he's got to show that he's got some kind of handle on the offense. He's got to score at least 30-something points a game. To go 8-4, them still have faith in you. Like, you got to be building to something. We know he can do it defensively, but he's single-handedly in 2 years ruined what this team was all about for countless years. His offense. They don't have it. So he's going to have to score a bunch of points if he wants to keep his job, show they're going in the right direction. I think those guys in Oklahoma are going to be pretty fed up with him by the end of the year.
And you mentioned that they brought in a GM to try and help him with some of the back office type stuff that the head coach has to do. Just like Uncle Kenny alluded to, everybody's got new guys. Everybody's got a GM type of role in their football offices at this point. And you have to. We're paying players for crying out loud. You have to have that type of position. I'm going to bring the first and likely only chicken scratch moment into the show, and I'm going to bring it right here, right now. Chicken scratch brought to you by Off the Chain Kennels, OTC Kennels on Facebook and Instagram. Look them up. They know how to breed champions. I don't know that Brent Venables does. Here's the question. Is Brent Venables self-aware enough not to become the next Muschamp? Will Muschamp, or Muschamp as his parents named him, goes from being probably the hottest defensive coordinator in college football, was the assistant head coach to be head coach at the University of Texas. When he leaves to become the head coach at Florida, it doesn't play out well. He goes back to being a defensive coordinator and then comes back to being a head coach at the University of South Carolina. I did all that I could to become part of the Muschamp era. I wanted to believe that he could bring something to us. It didn't turn out well. And then he goes back to the defensive side of the football because his big brother Kirby called him up and said, look, I'll give you a job, whatever. Right? Now, our good friend the Gooch just mentioned that Venables needs to get back to doing what he does best. Does Venables have the self-awareness to pull the ripcord and accept, because we know they'll be available, accept a defensive coordinator position at the end of this season? Or does he get fired and settle back into the role as a either way, I don't care which road he takes to get there. For his own sake, it'd be better if he just took a job somewhere else as a DC. But does he have the awareness to say, you know what, I'm better over here. I can make $1 million plus here as a defensive coordinator than having to worry about all of these other things as a head coach, which I'm obviously not that great at.
Let me answer that. I believe he may have the awareness, but will he take that step? No. And here's why. And I think it's very simple. Because if they fire him, he has a buyout. If he leaves, he just loses that money. At that point, it's all about the money. So, but do I believe that he's aware? Maybe he's thinking, I don't know, man. Do you think these head coaches are egomaniacs? I mean, really and truly, do you think their ego, like you said in one of the episodes years ago, or I think it was last year, one of the first episodes, you said their ego has an ego. Do head coaches' ego have an ego? And is it just too big for he can't see that he's better off as a defensive coordinator? I don't know.
I think they have to have that ego to a degree. Now, does it have to be the ego has an ego to where they blind themselves, right? Like they're wearing 3 bandanas tied around their eyes? I don't know. And again, I'm going to come back just a bit. It doesn't matter to me. The question is not how does he get there? Well, I'd have to just leave from one salary to another if I take another job versus the buyout if they fire me. Let me make them fire me. Because again, that ego comes into play. Do I want to be fired? Remember, Steve Spurrier left when he did because he wanted to be able to maintain the claim that he had never had a losing season. Gamecock fans feel differently. That last one was all on you, Steve-O. Love you. But from our perspective, that was all on you. Okay. So yes, they have that ego, but does he have the ability to say, I don't want to ever be fired. I don't want that on me. I want to be able to say that I left under my own terms because at this point, he's the head coach of Oklahoma. He was paid a ridiculous amount of money to be the defensive coordinator at Clemson. I don't think his bank account is a worry for him. The dude can pay the light bill. He's not concerned when his wife says, I'm going to run up to Publix and get some pineapple. Like that. He's not sitting there going, oh, dear God, not pineapple, not the exotic fruits. That ain't his issue. My thing is, does he have the ability? Does he have enough of that ego to say, I don't want to be like Will. I tell you what, I'm really good at calling defense. I'm going to go over here and do what I do best.
If he leaves Oklahoma, it will be by being fired. That's
absolutely. You have $44 million on the table. He's going to collect that money.
But again, that's not the question. That's the chicken scratch question is, does he have the awareness, regardless of how he leaves Oklahoma, does he have the awareness not to chase another head coaching? Will Muschamp did not have that ability. He did not have the ability to look at Florida and say, I'm not real good at this. For whatever reason, right? For whatever reason, Will Muschamp is not a college head football coach. I've heard a lot of reports about his time at South Carolina, so I've got my own thoughts and opinions as to the why, but he's not a good head coach. great defensive mind. So does the awareness that I'm talking about for Venables translate into, okay, a head college football coach thing did not work out. Not going to chase that path again. Been there, done that. I got the T-shirt. Moving on to what I'm great at.
I will say, to answer your question correctly, I would say yes, he has the awareness. If he is no longer the head coach at Oklahoma this year, next year, whatever it might be, because of his underperformance, I would say yes, he goes back to being a defensive coordinator because he knows that's what he's good at, and I think that, and he'll thrive wherever he's at as a defensive coordinator. Yes, I do think that awareness is there.
Good deal. So we'll still have one and only Chump.
That's right.
He's kind of mirrors Lincoln Riley, as he should be an offensive coordinator only.
Yeah,
I see where the conversation is. For
sure. All right, let's move on, guys. We got to roll. South Carolina is up next. They got to take on South Carolina in Oxford. My gut, I'm going to go with Carolina on this game.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I will tell you that this game for me is one of those that lies in the push area. It could go South Carolina. I believe it will go South Carolina, but it won't surprise me at all because, again, you're coming off of a pretty tough stretch here for Lane after we talked about a 4-game stint at home. Then you go to Athens. Then you go to Norman, Oklahoma. Now a week later, you get the Gamecocks coming into town. I just feel like Carolina's going to be a little too much, but it's not going to surprise me if Kiffin can get his guys ready to play this game and make it really tight.
I'll disagree with Uncle Kenny here. Go Birds.
This is like what we talked about in the beginning. It's going to be a gritty game, very in the trenches. If Ole Miss can run the football, I like the Rebs. But if they can't, I like South Carolina. So you said Ed.
Yes.
Well, it's hard to beat a home team in the SEC. Give me Ole Miss. Sorry, chicken.
Hey, no worries.
Next, they take on the Citadel. I think we all would agree that that's a W. And then they host the Florida Gators. Ooh. That is a win for Lane Kiffin this year since they lost to Florida last year. That Florida loss last year killed Ole Miss's chance of going to the into the playoffs. That is a revenge game for Lane Kiffin, and he wins this game.
Yeah, I agree. I think the way that this schedule plays out, I think it closes out really strong for Lane Kiffin. If they have the opportunity to make a playoffs statement, it's going to come in this 3-game stretch by closing out, going 3-0 at the end. I think they win easily against the Citadel. I think that it's going to be a good game against Florida. We continue to look at Florida as being improved again over last season, and they showed a lot of growth last season. But a lot of that still hinges on Lagway and what he can do. I think Lane Kiffin and the Rebels win this one at home. That's likely going to be an evening kick. I think the Rebels come out on top.
Yeah, I think this game really depends on 2 things, and that's Lagway's health and if Billy can coach at an away game. I already have Ole Miss at 4 losses, so I do think I'm going to take Ole Miss here. But I think this is the closest game on their schedule. I think this is the closest matchup they got. So I'm going to I'll take the Rebels.
Yeah, it comes down to Napier. I think Florida is honestly pretty stacked this year. I think they're going to be a pretty solid squad. I like leaning Florida, but I mean, it all depends on how Napier looks. Is he going to give up that role of trying to control everything and just be a CEO type of coach? If he can do that and let the boys roll, I think Florida will beat Ole Miss.
Wow. Then they close out their regular season with the Egg Bowl, as they do every year, and they take on Mississippi State at Starkville. So, yeah, I mean, we all feel bad what happened to the Mississippi State program the last couple of years ago, and they've just been trying to rebuild. Lane Kiffin is way too much for them, and I think they roll over Mississippi State pretty handedly.
Yeah, I think this is a long night for the Mississippi State Bulldogs, a long afternoon. It's already forecasted as a 12 o'clock kick.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's going to be a solid business trip for the Ole Miss Rebels. I think they're going to get out there, going to take care of business relatively early, and then just keep their foot on the gas.
Yeah, not to mention that they do have a bye week before this, so it's not like they're on tired legs for the last 4 away games or something. They have a fresh week and they can go play Mississippi State, take care of business, and maybe get ready for the playoffs. Right now, I got them at 4 losses, so that puts them out of the playoffs, but we'll see when the time comes.
This is my favorite bowl game. Well, not bowl game, but a rivalry game. They call it the Egg Bowl. This is one of the best games of the year every year. Not last year. Probably won't be this year. They'll probably get the doors blown off. Ole Miss is going to roll over Mississippi State. I love the Egg Bowl. I can't wait for it, honestly. It pumps me up Thanksgiving after you're filled up in turkey. A little Egg Bowl action. And do they have, is Texas playing Texas A&M? You know how they used to play on Thursday night? Are they doing that again on Thursdays, or is it?
I'll check the dates.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're
that used to be
playing.
The best. You get the Egg Bowl, and then you had Texas versus Texas A&M at night. That used to be the best Thanksgiving football watching there was. I mean, I don't like NFL football, so.
Yeah, I don't care how many turkey legs they hand out at the end of that NFL matchup. I want to watch college.
That's right.
College football on Thanksgiving is way better.
Yep. Yeah, so it is on November 28th, and this year that is a Friday.
Heck yes.
So yeah, look, man. All in all, I see Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Fighting Rebels going. Man, I see them going 9-3, 8-4 at worst, but they could even go 10-2. I gave them a loss at Arkansas, Georgia, and South Carolina, but I think they can easily pick up one of those. They could end up being a 10-2 team. We'll see. I think we've said it over and over and over. I think it all hinges on their O-line this year. How good is that O-line going to be?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. The difference I think that you and I have is you've got them dropping to Arkansas. I've got them dropping to LSU. But I still come out right now at a 3-loss season, which, again, with that last 3 games of the season, if they can win out those last 3 games, that's how they make their playoff statement. Don't know it'll be enough this year. 9-3 wasn't enough last year. So we'll find out. But, again, they could easily pick up an additional win in there somewhere and go 10-2.
That's right.
Yeah, listen, I love Lane. Maybe not as much as the dog, but I really do think 9-3 is probably their upside this year. I think there could be a 8-4 most probable, and then there could be a 7-5 season on our hands. We'll see.
Wow, 7-5. That would
that's
really
just the
be
low, though. I mean, we got to think, man. Like, you didn't give a loss to LSU or Florida, and there's 2 massive games. Man. So
that's true.
We'll see what we got going on later in the season.
I agree. Gooch, you got any final comments you'd like to share? I almost said wonderful wisdom, but that would be a stretch as well.
Somewhere between 8-4 and 10-2. That's 9-3. Yeah, I mean, one of those games like Florida or LSU, it's kind of a toss-up. So if they drop one of those, that's probably where they'll be. They probably won't make the playoff unless they just get on a miracle run. But we'll see. I think the playoff we're going to have between the Big Ten and SEC, at least 8 teams. You can only have 9 because of all the other teams that have to get in. So I think we get 8 teams from both conferences this year in the playoffs, and maybe Ole Miss could be one of those teams if they go 10-2.
They definitely might be able to. Look, Gooch, man, thanks for joining us today, man. We really appreciate you. We appreciate the intro, everything that you've done for Chicken and Dog, especially your support for us